Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining with us. We will start this session in a few minutes. To be with us.
Kunal bhai, we can start at 4-5.
Okay, Mukhil.
Yeah, Kunal bhai. Now we can start.
Yes, just a minute. Yes. So, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining with us on a beautiful Saturday evening. Issue Mover chapter has brought on this Saturday a webinar on a technical talk on safety at HVAC projects, and this will be given by us from none other than Mr. Ejad Kazi sir. Uh, and yeah, just the presentation on the disclaimer PPT first. Yeah. So, I'll give you a brief introduction on Mr. Ejad Kazi. He's a well-known personality in the HVAC field, as you know. But yeah, uh, this is for the ones who have are new So Mr. Ejaz Kazi is project director with Voltas Limited. He joined Voltas in 1998 and has completed 21 years so far. He has started his journey as a project supervisor, and he has a rich experience in handling MEP projects across Maharashtra, Goa, MP, and various applications like offices, hotel, hospital, malls, airport, and so on. See, he has handled large teams consisting of various disciplines and experiences. He's mechanical engineer from BJTI Mumbai, and he's also a project management professional, as we call it that PMP, from Project Management Institute, USA. He is he is a past president of Ishri Mumbai chapter, and I have a privilege to say that I joined Ishri Mumbai chapter committee in his under his tenure first. So, and that is what he's also a zonal chair for research promotion, and he's currently serving as a position of secretary for Ashram Mumbai chapter. Apart from that, Mr. Rijat Kazi has also received recognition for 50 million plus safe man hours for his signature project he has handled in this particular tenure as a project director. So that calls for a very big applause for him. Thank you so much, Ajad sir, for giving your time and sharing your experiences for this particular on this that particular topic, which is very very crucial. So we tend to forget the safety as a first step to precaution, and that is where we want to hear from you, and that is where we all Israelites want to hear from you. So over to you, Ajat sir. Thank you first very much for joining, and over to you.
Thank you, Kunal.
I will stop my share.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
So thank you, Ishri Mumbai chapter, for giving me this opportunity. I'm not a safety expert, but I'm going to share my experience which I have learned, particularly related to HVAC field. So that's the whole objective today, the topic today. So are you able to hear me, Kunal, properly?
Yes, sir. Pretty much, yes. Please.
So welcome once again, all of you. We'll start with the slide safety first. And we are going to talk about what is going to be HVAC related, construction site activities, how we can take care, and what are some of the experiences which I have had so far. So starting with this slide, performance always comes from passion, not from the pressure. Be passionate, love your job. I think we are in the field of building the nation, and everyone should love the job, be passionate. I will skip this. Let us start with this. It's all everybody's responsibility in terms of safety. It is people working together can create a safe work environment. And if you look at these people who come across in our projects from various zones, various locations all across India, they come and here to work with us to earn bread and butter for their family. And it is our responsibility as a management that you should be able to take care of these gentlemen who come here and they leave the sites, construction site on which we work on a project. The work should be safely, and we should be able to provide that environment so that they will be able to work safely. Most of these guys will have limited knowledge, limited education, but they are very, very clear about their own job, their skills. But when it comes to safety, we must be able to create that environment. It can only happen when we work together. We have seen such sites where our role comes in. HVAC in terms of value is not that significant, but in terms of its contribution to a project success, it's very, very high. Without HVAC, the project cannot be completed. So we have seen such pictures across India, in Mumbai or anywhere when we visit. And this is very, very difficult environment to work in, and to create a safe environment within this kind of environment is extremely difficult. Let us look at what happens to accident. Accident can be a fatal or can be injury. And this can happen only through two things. One is because of unsafe act by the person who is injured into the process. So it is because of his own unsafe act, or it can be because of unsafe conditions. The conditions were unsafe, and that's why he got trapped into it and he got injured. So these two things happen: unsafe act, unsafe condition. What we can do, these are the basic causes basically for an injury. What we can do for unsafe act, we can devise a rule so that people follow the rule and we can prohibit them from the unsafe act. We can devise the rule so that they should follow only certain kind of rule to avoid unsafe act. In unsafe condition, where major role comes of ours is we can do a proper engineering and safeguard the unsafe condition. It's like providing a guard or providing a canopy or something. So a lot of engineering can be done to help removing this unsafe condition. So this is the two issues which it comes to accident or safety, unsafe act and unsafe condition. And basic safeguards could be rules and can be engineering. Now let's look at this. This picture will tell you about what is unsafe act and what is unsafe condition. This particular thing, there is a damage over here, there's a crack over here, and that is basically is an unsafe condition. But the people standing below it, no matter whether it's crack or not crack, they should not be standing below it, knowingly that something is moving on top of their head. That is called unsafe act, and this is called unsafe condition. So these people who are standing here, if that cracks, these people can die and they can get injured. So it's a combination of both. But basically, if you avoid this unsafe act, this would crack, this will have an accident, but there will not be any loss of injury to any person. So this is very important to understand this. There are a lot of incidences in these photographs you can see of unsafe acts as well as unsafe conditions. Unsafe condition, if you can look at, is a slip and trip, where there was a liquid on the floor and the person got slipped. That is unsafe condition. The person had no role in that act. Look at this. When we had unsafe condition, it's a hook which is it's a weak hook. If you stand below the hook, that is unsafe act. If something happens and there is an injury to this person, it becomes an accident. And somehow, if he misses that, then it is called near miss. So these are the terminologies we are using in safety. Basically, these all terminologies are used. One more example to explore this: unsafe condition is lifting of this activity, but unsafe act is standing below the same lifting activity which is being that is called unsafe act. So these are two major causes, basic causes for an accident or for an incident. Now, HVAC project, as I said, have to go along with the construction activities. So we cannot isolate ourselves with the construction activities. So basically, when we enter as a HVAC contractor or HVAC developer, we get into an unsafe zone, knowingly that there's going to be some areas which will be affected, or we can get affected by that area. So it is very important that sometimes your own actions may make you safe, but because of some other actions, you might get impacted. A classic case one of the project site I heard is 3 ducting people were, going from in one corridor, and there was a water in that corridor, and there was a live wire. And these people they were with the slippers. They walked into this water, and all 3, got electrocuted and died on the spot. So that was an unsafe act created by somebody else. But this is where the project is about. This is the project dynamics is all about. We must be able to understand this by keeping ourselves isolate and consider that we are safe is not going to happen when it comes to construction projects. Now, that's why understanding of the site is extremely important, and site generally moves or changes on a daily basis. There are a lot of dynamic changes happens. So understanding of site is important, and that's why toolbox talks, that is a daily toolbox talks, is extremely important on a project, which will communicate you on that day what are the potential hazards exist on the site, where the people are going to work, what precautions they should take to avoid that any kind of incident. And hence regular site task analysis or hazard identification and risk analysis is very, very important. And this is applicable whether you do HVAC project or no. If you are doing HVAC project, this is applicable. If you are able to do ducting activities, piping activities safely, but you don't understand the site dynamic, again, you will fall into trap. I'll just show you 2 videos which will give you an idea, the small videos. And there is one more video. So these are the things which happen on site, and it is very important to understand the site dynamics. Let us get into the HVAC part. And what are the major activities we do? The first activity, and generally it is done, is ducting. And this is done with a GI or any other material which is used. What are the major issues with ducting? Generally, we get an injury to the fingers or the hands because of the sharp edges of the duct sheets. So that's where this becomes important. And how do we protect? There are gloves which can take care of your hands, even if there is a sharp edges which are getting in contact with your hand. When we talk about insertion of ducting, we must be able to look at what height we are installing and how safely we are installing, because jugaad work will lead to disaster in some way. Obviously, sometimes you work on Ram Bharose, but that might lead into an incident or a fatal incident if you don't take care of this. When we install the ducts into the shafts, it is more difficult, because the shaft openings, if they are not covered properly, there is chances of falling inside, and then again the incident can become fatal. So there are some photographs which I am saying you. There are good photographs which are basically using the mechanized way of lifting the ducts rather than involving the people to install the ducts, and using some of the mechanical lifts like these, which can help you to install the ducts. Obviously, there will be an element of cost, but that cannot be compromised with the life of the people. And we must be able to devise a plan, a strategy, how we can lift some of the critical ducts, not involving manual labor, which will have impact on safety of the people. Another way of looking at it is this. I'm just giving an example here. There's a 12-meter height. What machines we are going to use to put the ducts over here, supply air duct and return air duct? If the planning is done accordingly, rather than getting into a firefighting and start getting people to do manual activities and then getting injured. Because if you look at the time which we lose once a person gets injured or get fatal, it's much more critical, and the life which we lost is beyond any value. There are lifters which are available, like duct lifters, which can be used to lift the duct and avoid manual intervention, because it is important to avoid most of the time manual intervention to avoid direct contact or physical contact with the person, because the chances of getting injured is more and more in that case. So major risk, potential risk in ducting, shifting of ducting. Generally, people shift by using their shoulder, and it is very important, if there is no alternative which is available, to use shoulder pads. There are shoulder pads which are used, which can be kept over here, and the ducting can be lifted. But we can avoid manual shifting wherever it is possible. Injuries to hands and fingers, which we have seen. Vertical riser installation. This is another area the people can fall inside the shaft and get trapped, and it can lead to a fatal things. Installation of ducting at height. Most of the ductings are installed beyond 3 meters or 4 meters or more than that. This can also lead to fall of a people, including the fall of the material on the people's head or people's body can lead to injuries. We also use a lot of electrical machines, preferably the drill machines, to install the fasteners. If these electrical equipments are not handled properly, electrical shocks can lead to disastrous outcome in terms of safety. Then we get on to the piping, that is the chilled water piping or condenser water piping. We have seen some of the work which is here. This is called a piping. There are 2-3 aspects over here again. One is how you lift the pipes. If you can use mechanical equipments, and these are not, to be designed or something else, whatever is available, if you can make use of these equipments, we'll be able to have lesser contact with the person, lesser physical contact, and that can save people from the injury. If you can see this photograph here, there's a person who is doing welding. There's a person who is standing here with a fire extinguisher. He is called fire watcher. The work which is happening is being barricaded by a fire blanket, so the fire cannot come out of this booth. So creation of this booth can help to avoid the incidents due to fire. This one spark can go to any area and cause a fire. If anything happens, still the gentleman is here to take. It's a trained guy who is supposed to handle, is supposed to know how to handle the fire extinguisher. And if it's in worst case, if the fire happens, he is there to take care of it. So if you are able to create this kind of environment, which is kind of the safe conditions, the people, if they are trained properly, we can avoid both unsafe act and unsafe conditions, right? And this is how it can be done. This is major area. If you can create some of the booths, obviously there are some areas where you can have to do welding at the place, where also we can use the fire blankets below the welding that can avoid spread of fire from that particular position to anywhere else. Let us look at the next example here. This is the example I've seen here, and look at this gentleman. This is, he's working. Any spark which goes to this electrical installation here can create a havoc here. So fire booth, fire watcher, and appropriate PPEs. When it comes to hot work, we should have a proper PPEs so that the person is not exposed to the risk directly. We can avoid barriers by putting appropriate PPEs to avoid the risk contact coming in with the person. Another important thing is hot permit. This permit, I don't know how many places we use, but it's very important thing, because if we know this permit is taken to do some hot work, then we can monitor that particular area. And if something happens, we know which area it was and the right action can be taken. So it is very important where before you do the work, the site condition is analyzed before you are allowed to give work permit. So if site condition is supposed with full of chemicals, then you cannot do welding there. The chances of fire is very, very high. Another thing which I told you is the shifting of pipes. And this is the shoulder pad, which is a black color, which can help you. And you can always, we cannot lift the higher dia size pipe by manually. Smaller dia pipes have to be shifted. We can use the shoulder pad, and that can help, to have lesser risk to the people. Look at this condition. The gentleman is doing grinding here, and the fire is just going on the cylinders. Anything can happen at any point of time in this condition. So these are the conditions which are created, and if you are not vigilant enough to avoid this situation, the chances of risk is very, very high. This is what we have seen. Gentleman is doing is welding over here, and there is a fire watcher behind him to take care if there is a fire, and he has to be trained, just not to put just a person behind to show. There is a compliance. So compliance is a different part altogether. We are talking about the lives of the people. Right PPEs, and look at this gentleman without any PPEs. So this is what happens in most of our sites, and it is very important because this might not lead to immediate impact on the person, to his eyes or to his bodies. It can give an impact on certain period of time. It can also have a direct impact there and there by spread of fire, or it can have burns to your injury, to your bodies and other things. So this is with respect to the piping. Another area where we install the pipes, if you leave these openings like this, anybody can fall in, get entrapped, and get injured. These are the opening over here, and there's one opening over here, which is in the corridor. If someone gets in, he'll just get inside and he'll have major injuries. Another important area, whenever you do your work, the illumination there where we work has to be proper. If you do work in dark, the chances of risk is extremely high. Whatever you might do to take care, but if the basic illumination things is not taken care, then you should not be allowing people to work there. It's a matter of time to get the area illuminated. This is, we have seen most of the places where the welding machines, the conditions of the cables is extremely dangerous. How we keep the cylinders is totally unsafe. And these are all unsafe conditions. You can see by track record, the unsafe conditions create more accidents than the unsafe acts. And these are all unsafe conditions. You can see the plug over here. This is in use. And this is how the cylinders are kept. How do we install the pipes? As I said, we can avoid direct handling of the people. We can always use such kind of fixtures. These are not ready-made available. We can customize whatever is available, and we can lift the pipe at whatever height. We can also use some of the bigger heights if the pipe diets high. But if it is done safely, you can see here how safely it is done with the use of forklifts, how the big size pipes can be lifted. If the one forklift is not enough, there are two forklifts which are used. So all these things can be thought of. Most of us work on site are engineers, and we have the ability to think and devise some of the mechanism which can avoid. Generally, our focus comes to only the work output, and we don't give that much importance to this activity. But such ideas can also be taken up to avoid the physical injuries to the people. Some of the photographs. This is the supports which are used. This is how the pipes, with the help of a lot of mechanism and with less number of manpower, is being used. Again, this is a scissor lift used to put the supports in place. So this will give you confidence to the people that this area or the condition is safe for them to work. More handling of pipes here, installations, you can see. You can see how less number of people and more mechanized work here again, and how safely they are being taken into. These are large dia pipes. Even for small dia pipes, I have shown you how we can use the existing facilities or existing equipment to lift it. This is how the installation is done. This is a vertical installation. You can see the front view here, and this is a side view of the same pipes, how it has been installed properly. One of the requirement comes is before we start an activity, the planning has to be put in place. And the planning generally is how fast we can do is one area, how many people are required is another area. But one more element of how safely it can be done has to be put in. The method statement which you generally make has to have element of safety, which generally is ignored, and the only importance is given how productivity can be increased, how many people are required, and by what time we can complete. This is where the planning ends. The safety elements is not being looked at in many places. I'm not saying everywhere, but this is one of the example of one of the project where the pipes to be lifted at around 2.5 to 3 meters. And I'm just going to show you how it was done. This was part of the method statement, and you can visually see how the pipes will be lifted. Now look at this. The forklift comes here. There are two numbers of forklifts because the large pipe dia is here. They will put the pipes on the supports over here. There is a chain pulley over here. So hardly any requirement of people. Obviously, they are there to monitor activities, but not in direct contact with the pipes. The people who are here who are going to put it inside, because there are two pipes over here, they will shift on the left-hand side. The next pipe comes in, again with a similar method of two forklifts putting it up, and the people are putting it on top or positioning it. Total look at this. Now there's a beam over here, the huge Farana which comes in here. Again, we can use the chain pulley block. Second pipe comes in, and the supports gets installed, and the pipes are then safely anchored or safely positioned. This is how we can envisage what is going to happen. Look at on the right on the other side. These are from the chain pulleys. The pipes are lifted up. It's getting to another chain pulley. It's getting shifted onto the support. Look at how it is being shifted here. The second pipe comes in, and this is actually how we can plan the activities and how we can visualize. Now these things, because most of the workmen, as I said, have limited education background, if we are able to tell them and show them with the photographs, the understanding will be much more better. The another area where we can see the actual photographs, where the pulley can be installed, chain pulley, from where, what is the working platform, what is the lifting space, everything is identified here. And this is where the planning when it comes to. Now this is how another area, it is going to be a cooling tower platform, how the pipes will be shifted near to the cooling tower is being planned over here. These pipes are stacked somewhere here right now on the ground floor, and those are to be shifted at around level 2 near the cooling tower. Now look at here, this is being shifted by a pulley over here, getting inside, and the pipe is then safely anchored there. This is how it can look on the plan. The pipe is shifted and then pipe is moved accordingly over here. Now you can see the number of pipes getting shifted with the same methodology. And this is how we can plot where the pipes are going to be there, where this equipment is going to be sitting, how it will be shifted, and from where it will be moved. All these things can be properly planned. And this is a method from which everybody can be on the same platform, rather than everybody will have their own thoughts when we go to the actual working. And this is why planning becomes very, very important. What are the potential risks again? Shifting is major lift, because most of the sites I can see people shift the material manually. And even if you want to shift, the shoulder pad, as I shown in earlier photographs, is very, very important. Electrical shocks, because we already deal with the welding, grinding, they are already exposed 100% of the time, or not 100%, at least 70-80% of the time to this electrical shocks. And if they are not managed properly, you will have problem. Loss of fire, loss due to fire. Any trigger can get into one of the areas where a lot of fire can happen, blast can happen. If the cylinders are not put properly, the blast can happen. Fall from openings, which we have seen. Burn injuries and eye injuries we have seen. If you are not able to wear the PPEs properly, this can see. One of the important things for welders specifically, where people work, these are fire retardant jackets, which are given for the welders. So their body is protected, their head is protected by the head gears which they wear. So you can protect the entire welder by using this, because they are exposed to, welders are exposed to 100% of fire, exposed to fire 100% of the time. Whenever they do welding, there's a chances of fire. And if you can protect them with right gears, and that is where we can ask them to work safely. But we have to provide all these gears to them so that they work safely and they go out of the project site safely. Next is the insulation. The insulation is again when we use wool and the adhesives. These are again very, very dangerous materials which can have lot of health impact on the people. And if we can use right PPEs again, a mask, a goggle, a proper hand gloves, this will avoid direct contact with this material. Next is the equipment installation. The high risk activities, these are basically high risk activities. You start using shifting of chillers, shifting of fans, shifting of HUs. There needs a lot of coordination. If the coordination, in case of, if you look at the chiller lifting, if the coordination is between the bankman and the operator is not there, it can lead to a disaster. Equipment condition and safety is also critical, because there's a chances of losing that equipment as well as losing a person, or people getting injured is there. So this is very, very critical activity. It is always a considered high risk activity, because this involves a lot of coordination and a lot of elements involved in this activity. Operator, the competency of the operator is again important. We give a shit to this. We get a crane operator and ask them to operate, and we generally put the risk into the crane operator's bucket. But we don't look, because of that crane operator's competency, the people working around that activity might get impacted, and that is not considered. Very, very important to understand the competency of the people. A role of a flagman, he is the guy who is going to give the directions to the operator, and the operator is going to look at him and operate the machines. The role of the flagman is very, very critical again. If he is not trained, the disaster can happen. So most of the time the flagman is only available, I can see in many of the projects where the crane activity is happening. But when it comes to other activities at site, the flagman is missing. Very important person to have on a project site. Some of the equipment installation, small fans, we can use a safe scaffold and use it. Use of the Hydra to install the pump foundations. Here, use of the forklift to install the big fans inside the shaft. There's a shaft over here. This is a fan which is put on a pallet, and a forklift has been used. In many conditions, we will lift this fan by manually. It will be very difficult. Chances of productivity is being low is one area. And you can see there's a lifting arrangement given on top of the fan so that fan is not damaged. There is no direct touch to the fan, no physical contact with the fan. So all these elements can be thought of at site, looking at the safety as well as the productivity, because generally safety and productivity goes in hand. If you have loss of man hours, it will always impact on your productivity. So use of these elements like this forklift can help you. One of the examples which we did on one of the project is shifting of the HUs, the small CSUs which are lifted and hang like this. Look at the productivity. If you want to shift this, lift these people, you will need at least 6 to 7 people, and they can somehow manage 2 installation per day. And they will also be in physical touch with this unit 100% of the time. Now, if you look at both productivity and the safety point of view, and you use this, there is a fixture below this forklift jaws, and this is kept on this HU, and you go and install. Only people are required to do the fastenings and bolting. So you avoid maximum contact with the people, and the productivity can be done multifold. With this use of proper planning of using this, people can come and do the fastenings and get out, rather than shifting this HU with its own shoulders on top of it. Will have a lot of impacts on the safety as well as on the productivity. So these are the elements which can be devised, customized based on the site-to-site requirement, looking at both the aspects. Again, when we use this equipment, we should be able to know what equipment we are going to use, what is their capacity, what is their handling capacity, what is the condition of the machine, whether the safety elements of these machines are working or not working, needs to be checked. If they are not checked, if the safety element is, suppose the overload is not working in this machine, and if it lifts some heavy material and it falls, then there is a chances of injury to the machine itself, to the material itself, as well as to the people who are involved around this. It's very important to have specification and find out what kind of material shifting is required, whether this machine is capable. All these elements which are required to work are working or not has to be checked in before we get this in. Like this, we get a chart at what height, at what angle, what is the lifting capacity, because they will tell you this is a 10-ton machines, but at what height, at what angle, what will be the capacity of the lifting of the machine can be determined. And we are engineers, we can read this chart and find out, rather than depending solely on the crane supplier or the rental guy. This is one of the example of shifting of chillers. Right, this is a very, very high height, and this is a huge chiller. This is another example of shifting chillers. And we have seen such examples. In fact, in my experience also, there are 2 collapses of cranes while they were handling the chillers. So if they are not properly decided, or they are not properly identified which is the right crane which is going to be used on the project for a particular height, for a particular angle, for a particular distance and particular weight, you will have such dangerous accidents. And you can see some of the accidents. This is totally gone. The damage to the huge crane is there. Damage to the machine which is going to be handled is again an element, and the people around it also might get affected. So this is another area which we have to look at. We get a chart again from the crane manufacturer at what height, at what distance, at what angle, what is the lifting activity, lifting capacity of this hook is given here. And before you get in, you must be able to get one inspection done, so that all these elements of hook, limit switches, ropes, the slings, the hooks, the conditions are checked properly. before you get this in, because these are working at many places and there are chances of something not working, and on your project an incident can happen, the crane can fail, and it will have loss of property, loss of damages, and loss of personal injuries. So this is very important to have a small hoist inspection. Hardly we do such big lifting, so you can have this as one of the element when you work on site. Let us get into the general safeties, because as I said, we are part of the process on a construction site. We cannot isolate ourselves. So there are rules, and the rules have to be same for everyone. The rule cannot be different for a manager. A rule cannot be different for a worker. When you come to site, when you enter a site, if he is a CEO, MD, or a workman, the rules have to be same. So there are some protective equipments which will protect your head, protect your eye, protect your ears, protect your body, protect your nose, that is inhaling, protect your hands, and protect your feet. This entire protection, the gears are here, and those gears have to be mandatory when you enter the site. And this basically safety can be top driven. If people see that my boss is going without anything, they will also follow the next day. So these are the elements of general safety, irrespective of what kind of work you do electrical work, HVAC work, or anything. When you enter, you must be able to safeguard yourself, and it is at the end of the day, it is own safety and not anybody else. This is another area. You can see it on the left hand side. This is a chemical yard, and how horribly it is being put. This is a source of fire. This is a source of accident, and this source of fire, if it is not controlled properly, it can take over the entire site, the fire. So that's why it is very important to have arrangements like this with a drip tray. So if there's a leak also, it falls in a drip tray, and the spread of the chemical is avoided by this drip tray. So this is how it is stored, and this is the another way of not doing properly. So creating a safe environment and creating a safety guidelines also depends on creating a safe conditions. Material storage. If you store a very, very high level of material at very, very height, if it falls on your head, you are gone. So some of the disciplines have to be put in. How do you store the material? What height we should store? And those are elements how to go into planning when you do site. Look at how they are properly maintained so that there is no injury due to this. These are another photographs where the machines or the tools which are used, look at the conditions of this. You are just waiting for disaster to happen, and this will lead to a fatal or injury to the person. In most of the electrical cases, a shock generally leads to a fatal. And this is, if you have used these equipments like this, it will lead to fatal. Look at this stopgap arrangement, a jugaad arrangement. If this person falls, he goes into this shaft and he's gone. Look at this here. There is no working platform. People are just taking shortcuts to work. Again, whatever we use, those PPEs have to go through regular inspection, because everything has a life. Even PPE has a life. The equipment has a life. The PPEs has a life. The safety belt which you use has a life. If they are not periodically checked and used just like that, those PPEs can become one of the disaster element or one of the interruption to your safety. This will become another act or another potential act of safety. So this is where the inspection of the machines, the inspection of the tools, the inspection of the belts, the inspection of the PPEs have to be done, because everything has a shelf life and it has to be used. And the way they are used at site is also different by different people. Somebody will use properly, somebody may not use properly. So those have to be done to avoid or to prevent. Prevention is better than taking action later, and this is the preventive part where the regular inspection comes in, and this is applicable to everything. When we get people at site, induction of the people to the site is very important. These new people come to site, they don't know any ABCD of the site. We should be able to tell them what is the ABCD of the site, what are the hazards, what are the general guidelines, what are the rules which are used on the site, so that they are aware from the day one. If you leave them inside without any information, they can do anything, they can act in any manner, and that might lead to an accident at site. So this is safety induction is extremely critical. Daily toolbox talks, which I talked about. This is daily toolbox talks. This is on the job training. What is going these gentlemen supposed to do? They should be told to do how safely they can do. And this is what being interacted here. This is the morning TBT, and this is the training which is done on once in a week or once in a 15 days based on your site requirement. But people should, because a lot of time many new people get added, so they should be aware of what is happening at site. One important element which you miss in safety is motivation recognition. In India, probably there are a lot of personal, element which comes into picture when it comes to any act, not in safety, but unless people are motivated and recognized for the good things, they don't go and do better work in future. So it is important to motivate the people who do better job, so that other people also start looking at them, and they will also start changing their behaviors and doing the work in safe manner. And that's very important. A small recognition, a small certificate, a small gift can help these workmen to do better job and get them in front of the other workmen and talk about their safety achievements. That will give a lot of message, a good message to the other team members to do and follow safety religiously. And that's very, very important when it comes to safety, that we should recognize the people who are involved doing good job so that others can follow. It is not the matter of gift anything, it's a recognition in front of so many people that you are honoring them. So it's very important to motivate and recognize people who do good job and do it in a large forum so that others also start following this. This has to be done in a large forum, so the person who receives the recognition also feels little high, and the people who look at him also gets motivated to do better and better. Sharing of incidents. A lot of incidents happen. Whatever you try to do, there will be some unsafe conditions and some unsafe act which will happen on sites, right? Everything may not go as per plan. Whenever that happens, we must be able to share with others so that that is not repeated again. The whole important thing is don't repeat what has happened earlier. So share, if you do not share to them, they will not know. So it is very important to share what has happened and how it was prevented, or what you could have lead to a disaster. This, if it shown to them impactfully, if there are a lot of videos being shown here, if they are shown with videos and in different languages, sorry, the impact will be more. And that's very, very important. It may not happen. The incident cannot happen only on this side. You can also share the incident which is happening on other sides, maybe on other projects which we have overheard, and that can be useful for this site, right? Because the sites are similar. This is how it is shared. Look at this picture, and people are seeing it very carefully. And this will give a lot of message to these guys that this is something has happened. Somebody has become injured, and they should not be falling the same trap, and they should not follow the same in their sites. So it can happen anywhere across India or globe. We should be able to share. Near miss reporting. And this is very, very important, because you can see a near miss is unplanned event. It did not result to an injury. We have seen in one of the first slides, there was an accident and there was a near miss. He somehow got saved. But it has a lot of potential to become a fatal or a major accident or a major incident. So near miss reporting has to be done on a regular basis. Now you can see here unsafe acts, then 300 near misses will lead to 30 minor injuries, and 30 out of 30 minor injuries, one will lead to fatal. This is a pyramid. It is based on the unsafe acts, and these unsafe acts, if they are not reported, you will go up into the ladder. You will have the near misses, minor injuries, and you will lead to the severity or the fatality. It's very important to report and remove these issues or the acts or the conditions so that near misses are properly tackled. Near miss could be an accident tomorrow. So it is very important to report the near misses. It will give a lot of learnings to the people who will be able to help you. This is the lead measure which will tell you what is happening on your site so that you can take preventive action. Look at this, a smaller real miss can lead to a big injury. There's a nail over here, right? So this is again a very, very important aspects of a safety of promoting near miss. Working at height, we always do And generally, how we do, look at this. The person is there on top of this on the false ceiling. The false ceiling is not designed to take care of the load of the people. He might fall down, right? Look at this gentleman. He is at the edge of this thing and is getting into the false ceiling areas with this ladder. It is an unsafe act, but use this kind of ladders. It will be very, very useful for you to save the people. Unsafe act again here. Look at this. There is no reach. He's trying to stand on the top of this ducting. Even though there is a machine available, there's an unsafe act over here. This is a safe act. You're reaching to the people, to the position at right point of time. There's another way of how do you take the material on top by working on heights. You can have a rope and pulley arrangement to your scaffolding, and you can lift a lighter material which is used. Rather than you come down again and again to take the material, you go on up, and then one person can be here who can help you to get the material up. This person is safe, this person is safe, and you achieve your productivity. This is another way of working at heights. Working at height, we use a lot of ladders which are jugaads, and that can create a lot of issues. We use an incomplete scaffolding, which again is the major cause for accident. There are no railings, there are edges which are there. People can fall outside. Things fall on a people from that scaffolding. So it is very important before you work on height. The height work permit is issued, and it's not a paper. It is the guarantee that this permit is issued. The condition is safe to work, and the required PPEs or required materials used are right to use. So let us look at this. The scaffolding of the ladder has to be right for the job. It has to be properly anchored below, and we should have a firm grip on the ladder so that there should not a slippage from the ladder and you get on. There are many accidents. People fall from 6 feet heights and died because they died at the position where they get hit directly to the brain. Many incidents which have happened at around falling from 6 feet height, people have died. So these are lethal ladders. These are safe ladders. You should not do like this. You should do work like this. Never allow more than one person on a ladder. You must use the belts so that even if you fall, the belts will be able to help you. You should not lean out of the ladders. The chances of falling is very, very high. And people who has got fear of height should not climb. They should not be encouraged to climb and take risk and then fall down. Very important. And when somebody is working on top, nobody should be working below that ladder or under that ladder when it is in use. Something can fall from that ladder, and the person who is standing below can get injured. This is one of the horrible sites which I've shown you. This is the kind of scaffold which we use. Look at the accident. This was one of the accident which more than 300 people died. Look at the scaffolding. It's already tilted. The gentleman is working over here. It has no supports, and this is designed a jugaad method. Look at this gentleman. The access to scaffolding is not there. He's trying to somehow manage to go. Look at this gentleman. There is no ladder to reach to the top. He is trying somehow to go. These are all jugaad ways of scaffolding. The another jugaad you can see, you can laugh how the person is become scaffolding to work. He is giving support to the other person to work. Look at this. The platform which was used for scaffolding was weak and it got damaged. And this is a classic way of working at heights. The person is supporting by a wooden piece. And these are all actual photographs. Nothing, marked or anything. So this is how people work. We must be able to know what is the correct scaffolding. This is a right scaffolding which has got ladder, which has got a toe board, and all the elements of scaffolding are taken care. If you don't get use of this, use a man lifts where a person can go and easily do work, or you can use the scissor lift or boom lifts, which can help you to work at height. This will be very, very safe, but the safety of the equipments have to be checked before you put into this. And that's what we have seen earlier. If these equipments are not safe, they are not with the flagman, then this is again a dangerous thing. So when you use this, it has to be used with judiciously and with proper inspection. These are some of the elements of scaffolding. There are stabilizers, there are rungs, there are fixed platforms, there are toe boards, and nothing can fall from here, or the person's feet cannot get trapped over here. These are all elements of a good scaffolding, and these are for the mobile scaffolding. So there are casters wheels are there, and there is also a limitation to height of the mobile scaffolding. Let us look at the fixed scaffolding. Again, another arrangement where a proper ladder access is given, proper railing is given to go on top. The people can go on top and work easily. This is a platform over here. You can see one more photo here. Again, a proper grip is here. There's a proper landing. A person can go through ladder, and there's a platform on which can work. There are guardrails which are available. There are a lot of things which are going into a proper scaffolding. Which we have seen earlier, these are not the ways to do work at height. This is the way a proper scaffolding can help, because many of the time we also have jobs, a smaller job maybe, but job to do at this height, and this can help us. This is a fixed scaffolding. In work at height, we should use this safety belt. This is a full harness. This is properly locked. Most of the time, you use safety belt just to show the safety officer that I am wearing the safety belts, and they don't anchor it. It is for their own safety. The anchor is very, very important, and this must be motivated, and this must be used like this. And what is the length of this? The length of, generally it has to be 18 to 19 feet, and there's a formula behind it. When the person falls from here, he is able to hang it properly so that he doesn't get trapped. So this formula is properly given here for the length of the belt from the anchorage. There are some do's and don'ts on the working at heights. It is most of the time we must be able to work from the ground, but if it is not possible, we should be able to have people who has got no fear of working at heights only should be allowed to work. The equipment which we use or scaffolding which we use has to be stable. Proper precautions have to be taken for fragile surfaces, and a lot of protections from falling objects have to be taken care. What we should not overload ladders. We should not overload the equipments. If the equipments are not designed to take many people, we should not be allowing this, because this can lead to failure of the equipment, failure of the scaffolding, and they can fall down and get trapped and get injured. On higher, wherever there's a very critical areas, for arresters are used. When the person, if something happens, he falls, he is safe. There are a lot of safety gears which are used. Working at height, again, there's a permit over here, and with the permit, we make sure that the condition is right, the machine is right, and if the two things are taken care, the only thing which cannot taken care will be the act of the person, but at least the main part is taken care of, creating a right condition for people to work. So we can have this permit, you can have your customization for your sites. Another area which is slip and trip, where people get into because of a lot of unsafe conditions. Again, you can see here 16% are the housekeeping issues, 25% is the wet surface, and this also can lead to fatal. 54% are human errors. These are the acts, unsafe acts. 1% poor lighting, 2% stairs, 2% ladder. This is the graphic which is shown over here, the data which is shown here, what is the causes behind slip and trip, and this also can become dangerous. Another important element which is being overlooked is this. I know one of the example where one of the person who was not wearing the helmet, a 4x4 grill came from top at around 6 or 7 meters. It fell from one of the person's hand, and the person was standing behind it, just went into his brain, and he died on the spot. And this was during one of the accidents time, which I know. So similar thing, this spanner can come down and hit your head, and this fellow is gone, because when the drop object plus the gravity is a dangerous force. The velocity which it comes, the force becomes big, and it can hit anytime. So there has to be element to avoid falling objects. One of the things is this. Look at this. The spanner is tied with the hand. The spanner cannot fall down. So some of the techniques can be used to avoid falling. Even a small nut which can fall through a grating, and if it hits on the top of the head, it can have a larger impact on personal safety. So it's very important to understand this. Look at this. A 4 kg wrench dropped at 60 meters hits with a force of 234 kilograms. And this is the severity which we have to see. It is not a smaller thing. It is a huge area of concern on many of the sites. Falling objects, you can see the objects are falling. Some of these, your tapes, your screwdrivers, anything can fall. You can see here, This is a grating over here. The holes are big. This nuts can go, the spanner can go inside, and they can fall. If the person below without helmet, it can have larger impact. There are a few facts which I wanted to share. The first week of each site is most dangerous because people are new, the site is new to them, and they're trying to venture out into areas which are unsafe, and that becomes most dangerous. Accidents generally happen at the end of the day. These are all records, facts, because most of the time people are hurried to wind up, and during that winding up, they do shortcuts to reach early, and that's why accidents happens. Small buildings jobs are most risky. This is again from the data, because most of the time when we say the job is small, the risks are small. It is not. The safety is same for all the jobs, and that's why most people neglect this, and they become more risky. The first week, the end of the day, and most of the time on the Saturday evening or the weekends when people want to go, and next day is holiday, that is the time most accidents happen. Safety helmets, they do prevent injuries, and most of the time they prevent death. Very, very important. Lightweight shoes such as trainers and runners are not suitable on site. They have to be proper shoes, because anything falling on your feet, they should be able to withstand the damage. So what are the aspects of construction accident? 56% accidents are happening from the fall from the heights. 21 are trapped, or somewhere it is trapped. 10% are stuck by moving vehicle. 5% contact with the electricity or electricity short, but here the impact is very, very high. When it comes to electricity, the impact is very, very high. 4% stuck by flying or falling objects. These are the objects which come down heavily from top and get hit. 3% contact with moving machinery. 1% exposure to hot or harmful area. So these are some of the figures which are there from the construction site. Access, as I said, has to be properly done. Any access to site has to be safe. There has to be protection for the edges so that person cannot fall. The holes have to be protected so that nothing can fall from that hole and have impact to other person. Lighting has to be proper. The housekeeping has to be proper, and it has to be fenced from the other people so that other people should not, unintentionally come below the workplace and they get injured. Roof is another area. Most of the roof installations, fans are other thing we use. Most of the time, the accidents happen, people walking on the roof without taking much care. There should be a proper fall arresters, the fall protections for the people when you work on the roof. And 50% of fatal injuries involving roof are falls through fragile materials. So this is, again, that falling material from top, 50% of those are falling from the roof and someone is below the roof and hitting them. So these are simply fact. Excavation, most of the piping in another place we use. A soil cannot be tested. Any soil can just fall down, it can collapse and you can get buried into it. And many times it happens. Whenever we work on the excavation, the proper care has to be taken, and then only it has to be happening. And these excavation sites have to be visited daily basis, because this is again a dynamic thing. It changes on a daily to daily basis. Crane safety, we have seen. The equipment selection, the competency of the crane operator, the competence of the flagman or the banksman is very critical when it comes to the crane operator or crane operation. And this can lead to bigger impacts. In my own personal cases, I have seen 2 cases where crane got toppled and it has damage to the equipments, which are large equipments. And most of the time, these equipments come at the last moment, like chillers come at the last moment. And if they get damaged, getting the new chillers will lead to delay on a project. That also has to be looked into when we select a crane. Electricity is very, very critical, and it has to be respected. First thing, we should respect electricity, because it can flow through your body and can just, within a flash, we can take you out of this world. Right command of cable, right terminations, proper earthings, proper isolations have to be used. There should not be any shortcuts in electricity, otherwise it will just kill anybody. So this is a basic safety philosophy. All accidents are preventable. If you are able to take control of unsafe acts and unsafe conditions, most of the accidents can be prevented. No job is worth getting hurt, right? Every job has to be done with safety. Incidents can be managed by a proper rules, a proper creation of safe conditions, continuous improvement, because we have to learn from many other places within your project and another project so that we improve on this. People try and work out on the legal part, but legal part is one way, that is a minimum requirement. We must be able to customize what is the site requirement and what is the person's safety. The person's safety has to be at this center when we take any decision or when we create any safety culture at site. How do we report safety? The report is safety is first is near miss, very, very important, because this is a leading indicator which will give you how your safety is getting moved. Then there's a HIPPO, high potential incident, anything which is damage to a property or to a major injury to person is called HIPPO event. That is a major event which is getting recorded. First aid cases, when the minor injury happens, person gets some first aid and he goes on to job. MTC is medical treatment, where post-medical treatment, after gap of some days, he can resume his site. LTI is the lost time injury, the amount of time which is lost. RWC is the restricted work cases, where person will not be able to work with 100% of his efficiency or 100% of his physical this thing. He might work with some light work. Something has gone wrong with his physics because of incident. Fatal is fatal, and what if nothing happens out of this, safe manner is calculated, and that has to be the aim, where nil incident, nil fatal has to be the aim. And this can happen by monitoring these safety parameters on a continuous basis. There are some best practices. One is awareness. People have to know their roles, responsibilities when it comes to safety, and everybody should be aware of this thing. It is not one man's job, it has to be everyone's job. Communication. Accidents, incidents which happen have to be communicated to many people so that a repetition does not happen. And that's where communication becomes important. And with the people, when we work, if you have put empathy into the communication, because most of the time the behaviors makes a lot of difference. So importance has to be given to change the behaviors with respect to safety. Most of the time people think lethargic way, and the communication can help you to change that behavior. Documentation, another important thing. All those parameters will be able to give you a lot of idea, a lot of this thing. It can also be able to help you when it comes to a legality or putting facts to someone else. Proper equipment we have seen. We have to be sure about what equipment you are using, and apart from that, the person who is using the equipment is also very, very important. Supervision plays an important role, because we generally leave it to supervisor, to the workers. They work in their own fashion, and we leave it to their own judgment. And most of the time, the incidents happen because of the lack of supervision. Or when the supervision is there, he is creating an unsafe condition for the workmen to work there, and it is his responsibility for that incident. Safety has to be taken into a mode of innovation, because a lot of innovations are happening in other places. Safety have to get into it. A lot of digitization can help in managing safety. A lot of places now cameras have been put, because it's like a thief, when he sees the camera is there, he will see that someone is watching. Likewise, if you put on a larger projects some cameras so the people see that they are under observation, that can help. So a lot of such innovations can help in safety. Transparency. Whatever happens, it has to be told transparently. So hiding of facts in terms of safety cannot be accepted. It has to be clear, transparent, so that if the incident happened, it has to be reported, have to be told, have to be communicated. Food for thought. Facilities, processes, and people, if you manage this and integrate it properly, a lot of things can be achieved when it comes to safety. Like facilities, in terms of what we provide them, their maintenance, their controls, their risk part of it, their safety related issues, if they're properly taken care. Processes, if you put the right rules and regulations, and somebody is there to monitor those rules and regulation, somebody is there to oversee those rules and regulations, will help. And finally, the people, because they are the people who are at the center of the attraction, they should be able to know what is the roles and responsibility, and how do we adhere to the rules, and do not take rules for granted. So if the facility, process, and people are taken care, we will go in a long way in creating a right safety culture in our industry. construction site safety, no job is important that cannot be done safely. So it is important that we should make sure that person is safe, the condition is safe, and he should not be put into danger knowingly, right? So best is nothing but be safe today and every day. With this, I end my presentation here. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to take. Thank you very much for your patience listening.
That was an amazing presentation, sir. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us. I would request if we have any questions from the audience, you can please use the chat box or the question and Q&A to ask your questions. Sir, even I had one question. So now, we are talking about a new normal after this pandemic. So, how the safety guidelines would change for the projects, especially after this pandemic?
This has given a lot of learnings to all of us, including people who work on construction sites. So mostly now the regular health checkups are done before the site person is inducted to site. For his most of the site, the COVID tests are done. So if he's fit for this thing, he's being used. If he's found positive, he's been quarantined, isolated. So those protocols are taken. And it comes to site working, if this first screening is done, I think 50% of job is done. Even that people can get into and become positive, that's a different aspect. But the regular checkups after 14 days is another area. Leave apart the thermal scanning and the temperature monitoring and the oxygen monitoring that is being done on regular basis. But when it comes to site, people have to work together, because without working together, it cannot happen. But just to make sure that how much we can work upon on mechanizing the work activities, so that a lot of people do not gather to do one activities, one area which we are working on and everybody is working on, so that this is the distancing norms are followed. But I think the most important thing is which is happening is the screening before entering to the site. That is the new normal which is happening.
There's one more question that can you just tell more about fixed scaffolding? That was
Fixed scaffoldings are used when the heights are more, and generally, if you can see across the building periphery, these fixed scaffoldings are used. And if the height is very, very high, we have to go for fixed scaffolding, because movable scaffolding can tilt and anybody can fall. So these are used with, I think, two methods. One is a kaplock method with the piece of pipes they are used. And there are a lot of elements which I said. When the platform is built, the platform is has got a toe board, so that our feet do not get entrapped, or something cannot fall from that platform below. That's one area. Second area, how they are designed. The scaffolding also has a calculation, and what kind of work we are going to do, what kind of material we are going to keep on the platform, at what level will decide you what kind of scaffolding is required, what are the number of elements, what are the number of members required, and there's a proper calculation to it. Another important thing is access to scaffolding. How do we get into the scaffolding, whether the proper ladder, whether the proper railing. When we work on the platform, is there a railing across the platform so that people cannot fall down from that platform and get injured? These are all elements of fixed scaffolding. These are also elements of mobile scaffolding, but mobile scaffolding has a restriction of height. Beyond that height, we cannot use mobile scaffolding, and that's where the fixed scaffolding comes into picture.
excellent, sir. So, any more questions? Yeah, I think that were the only questions that we have. I would request our President, Mr. Rajendra Joshi, to please say a few words. Aaron, sir? Hello, Aaron, sir? Yeah. I think Mr. Tejas Godawala, will you be able to mute Mr. Tejas? Tejas ji, if you can just give your views for this particular.
Aaron is talking.
Yes, Arun sir.
Hi, Kazi.
Yes,
As usual, wonderful. Yeah, thank you very much.
Aaron.
I look forward to many more sessions with you as usual. To say thank you to is really insulting because you are so passionate about meeting the people, talking to the people, and writing books. That is a new skill which I adopted, and I must tell all the audience which is today available that he has just come up with his another book and very very interesting. So guys, please. Get in touch on Amazon and download or purchase whatever the way it is and enjoy the book. Kazi, thank you very much for a wonderful session.
Thank you. Thank you.
Look forward for many more sessions with you. Thank you very much. So I wanted to extend this in a point of view also, as we discussed. So in the new point of view, we want to do a issues with installation of chillers and VRVs and stuff.
Yes,
So I'm taking this opportunity to invite you on the panel of point of view of next session.
definitely.
And yeah, we'll coordinate once the things are in place. But thank you once again for a wonderful session.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for attending and being a part of our programs. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So it's a wonderful to have you all here attending here. Keep attending all our webinars, and we will keep in touch with you. First of all, thank you again, Kazi sir. Thank you very much for this wonderful session and a very knowledgeable session also for us, for especially for young engineers like us, where we have to work in the actual field and take the safety into consideration.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. Thank you. We will stop the meeting. Yeah. Thank you everyone. Bye bye.